One of the biggest attended events at the Market Focus has been today's presentation by Robert Blum of Intel. Robert, congratulations on the audience. It was phenomenal today. And one of the things you were talking about was data centers and the challenges currently being faced by data center operators. Just take us through some of the main points.
Yeah, thanks, Brian. So what data centers see now is this huge explosion in traffic inside the data center. Data center traffic is doubling about every 12 months now. And that's really driven not just by consumers increasingly consuming more data through mobile devices, for example, but we now are really entering what we call the third wave of compute, where machines, billions of connected devices that are connected to the cloud talk to each other. So we have machine-to-machine traffic that's driving huge amounts of data growth, demand for data into the data center. And so when we look at the total traffic inside the data center, it actually exceeds the total internet traffic by about a factor of 5x. So there's a lot more traffic inside the data center than there is total internet traffic. And that's putting increasing amounts of pressure onto the network inside the data center that is connecting all the servers and all the switches inside the data center.
So that's really creating more and more demand for the solution. I think one of those solutions you were talking about is obviously silicon photonics.
That's right. I mean, we're quite excited because just last month we announced the volume production of Intel Silicon Photonics. So at the Intel Developer Forum in August, we announced that our 100 gig optical transceivers are in volume production now. So we have these parallel single mode fiber transceivers that are in production. We're also sampling these coarse wavelength division multiplexing transceivers, CWDM4. If you look at what's happening inside the data centers, in order to keep up with the traffic growth, they're upgrading their servers from 10 gig to 25 gig, but what's happening inside the switches is that those switches need to upgrade from 40 gig to 100 gig, right? And that's where the transceivers plug into. And we at Intel have a quite unique way of addressing these challenges by using wafer scale manufacturing. We're able to integrate the laser directly at the wafer level into the silicon, so that drives radically different cost structures, enables us to really do high volume manufacturing and really keep up with that bandwidth growth by supplying these transceivers into the data center.
Yes, I mean, going forward, are you confident that we can keep on keeping up with this bandwidth demand?
I mean, and that's really one of the main reasons we're doing this, right? I mean, we have 100 gig today, and I talked about that in the presentation. Obviously, there's now an ecosystem forming. There are MSAs forming for 400 gig optics, both in terms of pluggable form factors, but also for optics on board. I talked about the panel we moderated at IDF with Facebook and with Microsoft, where Microsoft talked about their 400 gig architecture, or the vision for the 400 gig architecture, and how they see also optics going to the server at the same time with 100 gig to the server. But if we look even beyond, I mean, again, the traffic is doubling every year, so that means and that's just a rough estimate, but if we say every 2 years we need to basically increase the bandwidth by 4x. So if in a couple of years we go to 400 gig, 2 years later we need to be at 800 or 1 terabit. We need to support switch bandwidths of bandwidth densities of about 25.6 terabits per second, and there's really no way that we see how to do that with doing it the same way we have done it today with pluggable optics. We really need to integrate the optics with the switch silicon. We need to drive optics closer and closer to the silicon, and that's really the vision I talked about in the talk, and how silicon photonics can really enable us to keep up with that bandwidth growth and continue to support the bandwidth demands of the data center.
So it looks like we're heading for a very exciting and a very challenging future. Thank you very much for spending some time with us today.
Thank you, Brian. Appreciate it.